Thanksgiving with Tyler's family was supposed to be a warm introduction, not a chilling revelation. Their secluded farmhouse, nestled among skeletal trees, seemed quaint in the fading autumn light. Tyler's family, a peculiar yet cordial bunch, welcomed me. Their smiles were warm, but their eyes held stories untold. As the evening unfolded, a lavish feast was laid out. The aroma of roasted turkey and pumpkin pie filled the air, yet a sense of unease settled over me. Excusing myself from the bustling dinner table, I stumbled upon a hidden door, slightly ajar, leading to the basement. Curiosity overcame me, and I descended the creaky steps. The basement air was cold and musty. My heart pounded as I saw them. Jars containing human body parts preserved grotesquely. Fingers, an ear, a heart. Terror gripped me. What kind of family was this? Rushing back to the dinner table, my mind raced with panic. Tyler's family hadn't noticed my absence, engrossed in their eerie, hearty laughter. I feigned calmness, planning my escape. The nearest town was miles away, and the chilling realization that I was trapped dawned on me. Dinner passed in a blur. Tyler's occasional concerned glances went unnoticed. I needed to act. As the night deepened and the family retired, I seized my chance. Avoiding the creaky floorboards, I tiptoed to the front door. My hand trembled as I turned the doorknob, only to find it locked from the outside. Desperation took over. I remembered a small window in the laundry room. It was a tight squeeze, but it was my only way out. As I clambered through, the sound of footsteps approached. Tyler's voice, laced with a mix of worry and something sinister, called out my name. Landing on the damp ground, I ran, not daring to look back. The barren trees seemed to whisper secrets as I dashed through them. My breath formed clouds in the cold air, my heart pounding in my ears. The moon was my guide as I navigated the unfamiliar terrain. Branches tore at my clothes, but fear propelled me forward. After what felt like hours, lights appeared in the distance. The highway. I emerged onto the road, waving frantically at the occasional passing car. Finally, a truck stopped, its driver eyeing me warily. I didn't look back at the farmhouse, a silhouette against the night sky. The truck drove off, carrying me away from the nightmare. As the farmhouse disappeared into the darkness, a shiver ran down my spine. Tyler and his family's true nature remained a mystery, one that I never wanted to uncover. Thanksgiving had always been a time of warmth and family gatherings for me, but this year was different. I was alone in a new city, far from home. The loneliness was palpable, and in a moment of desperation, I turned to Bumble, hoping to find some company. That's how I met Mark, a seemingly charming stranger who agreed to meet me for dinner at Applebee's, one of the few places open on Thanksgiving night. The restaurant was moderately busy, with families and other lonely souls seeking a semblance of holiday cheer. Mark arrived late, apologetic, but with a strange intensity in his eyes that made me uneasy. Dinner was an odd mix of small talk and awkward silences. There was something about Mark that didn't sit right with me. His gaze was too intense, his questions too probing. As the night wore on, I grew increasingly uncomfortable. I excused myself, citing an early work commitment as a reason to leave. Mark offered to walk me home, but I declined, insisting I needed the fresh air. The chill of the November night was a welcome relief from the stifling atmosphere of the dinner. Walking through the deserted streets, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. I quickened my pace, wrapping my coat tighter around me. That's when I heard it. Footsteps echoing mine, keeping pace but always remaining just out of sight. My heart raced as I glanced back, only to catch glimpses of a shadowy figure darting out of the light. Panic set in as I neared my apartment. The footsteps seemed to get closer, more urgent. Fumbling with my keys, I darted inside and locked the door behind me. Peering through the blinds, my fears were confirmed. There, under the dim glow of a streetlight, stood Mark, his eyes fixed on my window. I retreated from the window, my mind racing. The phone rang, breaking the silence. It was Mark, his voice eerily calm, asking why I had left so abruptly and if he could come up. I declined, trying to keep my voice steady. But the calls didn't stop. They became more frequent, each one more disturbing than the last. I turned off my phone, hoping to end the torment, but then came the knocks at my door. Gentle at first, they grew louder and more insistent. I was frozen in fear, alone and vulnerable. When I finally gathered the courage to look through the peephole, there was no one there. The police arrived shortly after my frantic call, but they found no trace of Mark. The officers suggested it might have been a prank, but their words offered little comfort. The rest of the night was sleepless, every creak and groan of the building a reminder of the evening's terror. The next day, I received a bouquet of flowers with a note from Mark, apologizing for any misunderstanding and asking to meet again. The gesture, meant to be conciliatory, only served to heighten my fear. I responded with a clear message that I did not wish to see him again, but it didn't end there. Over the next few days, I felt watched. I caught glimpses of a figure lurking near my workplace, the same intense gaze from the shadows. My phone was inundated with messages and calls, each more unsettling than the last. I changed my routines, avoided going out alone, and even considered moving. The sense of being stalked haunted me, turning my once comfortable solitude into a prison of paranoia. It wasn't until I confronted Mark at his workplace, demanding he leave me alone, that the harassment finally stopped. He seemed taken aback by my assertiveness, and after a tense conversation, he agreed to respect my wishes. That Thanksgiving experience left a lasting imprint on me. It was a stark reminder of the vulnerability that comes with seeking connection in a world of strangers. The shadow that followed me that night may have disappeared, but the memory of that fear lingered, a ghostly reminder of the fragility of trust and safety. Thanksgiving always held a special place in my heart. It was the one day a year where the world seemed a little kinder, a little more forgiving. But this Thanksgiving was different. It began like any other, with the aroma of roasted turkey and the sound of laughter filling the air. I was walking home after a delightful meal at my friend's house, my mind still buzzing with the day's joy. That's when it happened. A sudden sharp pain at the back of my head was the last thing I remembered before everything went dark. When I awoke, I was in a dimly lit basement, my hands and feet bound. The air was musty, and a sense of dread hung heavy. I wasn't alone. Others were there too, some unconscious, some staring blankly into the void. Time was a blur in that cellar. Days, maybe weeks passed. Our captor was a shadowy figure who only appeared to deliver our meals, always a bizarre, twisted version of Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey that tasted off, stuffing that was more like slop. We were being kept alive, but for what purpose I couldn't tell. As the days wore on, my resolve hardened. I wasn't going to be a victim. I started observing, noting every detail. The layout of the room, the times our captor came, any potential weaknesses, and then, one day, I saw my chance. Our captor had been careless, leaving a small tool within reach. It took hours of painstaking effort, but I managed to free myself from my bonds. My heart pounded as I crept towards the stairs, each step a gamble between freedom and capture. The house above was quiet, eerily so. I found my way to a window, prying it open just enough to slip through. The cool night air had never felt so good. I ran without looking back, not stopping until I reached the safety of a crowded street. I called the police, my voice trembling as I recounted everything. The police acted swiftly. They found the house, the cellar, and the other captives. Our captor was arrested, a madman whose twisted mind saw us as characters in his own perverted Thanksgiving play. I was free, but the ordeal left scars that ran deep. Thanksgiving, once a time of joy, now held a shadow of terror. Yet in that darkness, there was a glimmer of hope. I had survived. I had fought back against the darkness and emerged into the light. And for that, I was eternally thankful.